fight to the death. Is China's yuan taking on the almighty dollar?
Now let's talk about Saudi Arabia. It is deepening ties with China. Today they've signed a deal to trade in their native currencies and sideline the US dollar.
The first ever digital currency transaction was made between the UAE and who do you think? China.
China has declared a war on the greenback. First, Brazil made the switch. Now Argentina has entered the club. Argentina will use the yuan for trade with China, and they'll start this month.
China has got a major victory in the Middle East, and the US dollar is officially in trouble.
The latest blow to the value of the United States dollar was dealt just a couple of days ago when China completed its first trade of LNG, liquefied natural gas, in the Chinese yuan. Those who have been looking for ways to distance themselves from the United States and the currency now have another option.
So, the question on everyone's mind is the petrodollar's reign really over? What don't we know about the Saudi Arabia's yuan trade deal? And more importantly, can China's yuan truly challenge the dollar's dominance? Well, let's start from the beginning. March 28th, a date that's now etched in the history books, when the Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange, or SHPGX for short, dropped a bombshell announcement. They sealed the deal for importing a whopping 65,000 tons of liquefied natural gas, LNG, from the United Arab Emirates. But here's the twist. Instead of the usual currency dance with the US dollar, they shook hands on using Chinese yuan to settle the bill. Talk about breaking tradition, right? Now, who were the players in this game-changing move? We've got the China National Offshore Oil Company, better known as CNOOC, teaming up with the French powerhouse Total Energies. And guess what? Total Energies confirmed that the LNG they imported was straight from the Persian Gulf state. But wait, there's more. China's Global Times chimed in the next day, giving us the lowdown. According to them, Guo Shu, the big cheese over at SHPGX, spilled the beans on what this deal really means. He called it a meaningful attempt to shake up the status quo. They're not just talking about swapping currencies here. This move is all about paving the way for a whole new ball game in international LNG trading. Think of it like this. You've been playing Monopoly with the same old rules for years, but suddenly, someone flips the board and introduces a whole new set of moves. That's exactly what's happening here. By embracing multi-currency pricing, settlement, and cross-border payments, they're tearing down walls and building bridges. And guess who benefits? International players like Total Energies get a front-row seat in the Chinese market. It's like adding a splash of color to a black and white painting, creating a vibrant new pattern of dual circulation in China's economic landscape. So buckle up, guys. We're witnessing history in the making, where every move counts and every handshake shapes the future of global trade. Now let's zoom in on Beijing's power play in the energy trade arena. Brace yourselves, because things are about to get even more intriguing. So picture this, the yuan, China's currency, swooping in to take the spotlight in the world of liquefied natural gas, LNG, trading. Experts are calling it a game changer in China's oil and gas scene. Why? Because it's like opening up a whole new avenue where international and domestic markets can cozy up and do business together. But hold your horses, guys, because this plot twist didn't just happen overnight. It's been brewing since December 2022, when Chinese President Xi Jinping dropped a bombshell during his visit to Riyadh. He basically said, let's give the SHPGX a whirl and settle our oil and gas trades in yuan. And guess what? That's exactly what's happening now. Now, let's talk strategy. For decades, it's been all about the US dollar when it comes to global oil deals, but not anymore. This move is like turning the page on an old playbook and rewriting the rules of the game. Some experts even speculate that the French jumped on the yuan bandwagon because of a shortage of Russian gas supplies to Europe. Or maybe they've got a stash of yuan burning a hole in their pocket and figured, why not put it to good use? And here's the kicker. This deal took everyone by surprise, especially the French President Macron. Why? Because he usually doesn't make a move like this without giving Uncle Sam a heads up.
In other global news, Chinese President Xi Jinping will hold talks with his Serbian counterpart in Belgrade today. And this as Beijing seeks to deepen its political and economic ties with friendlier countries in Europe.
As for the UAE, it's all part of a bigger picture. With the US stepping back from Afghanistan and shifting gears in the region, countries like the UAE are looking east, straight into China's waiting arms. But wait, there's more. This isn't just about trade, it's about geopolitics too. With all the chaos happening over in Ukraine, the world is split right down the middle. And guess who's not playing favorites? That's right, the Persian Gulf states. They're not keen on joining the Western chorus of criticism against Russia and China. Instead, they're charting their own course, expanding their global reach, and flexing their muscles on the international stage. Now let's rewind a bit. Ever since President Xi Jinping took the helm, China's been on a mission. They're not just content with playing second fiddle anymore. Oh no, they're aiming for the top spot. And how are they doing it? By striking deals left, right, and center in their own currency, the yuan. It's like they've thrown down the gauntlet, challenging the almighty US dollar's dominance in global trade. And guess what? It's working. The yuan isn't just some underdog anymore. It's clawed its way up to become the world's fifth largest payment currency. That's right, guys. Right up there with the big dogs. And when it comes to settling trade deals, it's sitting pretty at number 3. Plus, it snatched the title of the 5th largest reserve currency. Talk about punching above your weight.
Last year, China paid $65 billion to Saudi Arabia. This was just for the crude purchases, $65 billion. It made up about 83% of the kingdom's exports to China.
The yuan's making waves, accounting for a whopping 7% of all foreign exchange trades worldwide. And get this, it's been on the rise for the past 3 years, gobbling up market share like there's no tomorrow. But here's the thing, guys. It's not just about numbers. It's about what the yuan represents. With China's economy revving up and its financial markets opening wider than ever, the yuan's become more than just a currency. It's a symbol of China's growing clout on the world stage. And if you need more proof, just take a look at the numbers. The International Monetary Fund's currency composition of Official Foreign Exchange Reserves report tells the tale. The percentage of US dollars and central bank reserves. It's been on a steady decline since 1999. Meanwhile, other currencies, especially the Chinese yuan, are on the up and up. And get this, over in Xinjiang, out in western China, they've been handling cross-border yuan settlements like nobody's business. Back in 2013, they hit the 100 billion yuan mark. And by 2018, they'd skyrocketed to a whopping 260 billion yuan. That's a whole lot of yuan changing hands. Now, let's rewind the clock to 2009. That's when Beijing decided it was high time to loosen the shackles of dependency on the US dollar. They rolled out a game plan. Start settling most of their goods in their own currency, cozy up to central banks worldwide, and strike deals with countries in West Asia and North Africa to use the yuan in trade. And you know what? It's paying off big time. Take Iraq, for example. They've jumped on the yuan bandwagon, announcing plans to settle trade directly with China in yuan. Why? Well, partly to get their hands on more foreign currency and partly to dodge the dollar shortages caused by some hefty restrictions slapped on money transfers by the Federal Reserve. And they're not alone. Egypt's eyeing up yuan bonds too, showing that the yuan's got some serious street cred in the region. But hold on to your hats, because Russia's entered the chat. They've been pulling some serious strings, like signing the Eastern Natural Gas Pipeline Agreement with China. And get this, they're not just sticking to dollars anymore. Nope, they're converting gas payments to yuan and rubles faster than you can say geopolitical power play. And Russia's not the only one hopping on the yuan train. Over in China, the yuan's become a major player in foreign trade, with its slice of the import pie shooting up from a measly 4% to a whopping 23% in just 1 year. And exports? They're not far behind, climbing from 0.5% to a solid 16% in the same period. But wait, there's more. During his jaunt to Saudi Arabia, President Xi Jinping didn't just kick back and sip tea. Oh no, he had a bigger fish to fry. He urged the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC countries, to hop on board the SHPGX train for yuan-based energy deals. And guess what? It paid off big time. China and Saudi Arabia sealed the deal on over $30 billion in trade agreements, leading some analysts to dub it the dawn of the petrol-yuan era.
The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia wants to diversify his economy, to end the dependence on oil revenues, and China could help MBS realize this vision.
And here's the kicker: Russia, Iran, and Venezuela, China's ride-or-die allies, hold a whopping 40% of OPEC plus oil reserves. Add that to the GCC's 40% and you've got a recipe for success. If these heavy hitters start settling their energy exports in yuan, well guys, the petro-yuan's here to stay. Pay attention, guys, because we're about to unpack the geopolitical chess game playing out on the world stage. It's time to take a closer look at how countries are responding to U.S. policies, and let me tell you, it's nothing short of fascinating. So, picture this. January rolls around, and Saudi Finance Minister Mohammed Al-Jadaan drops a bombshell during an interview with Bloomberg at the World Economic Forum in Davos. He basically says, hey, we're open to trading in currencies other than the US dollar. Now that might not sound like much, but coming from a stalwart US ally like Saudi Arabia, it's a game changer. But here's where things get really interesting. Despite their decades-long alliance with the US, Riyadh's cozying up to Beijing like never before. Why? Well, let's talk numbers. In 2022 alone, China gobbled up over 500 million tons of crude oil and over 100 million tons of natural gas, including a whopping 63.44 million tons of LNG. That's a whole lot of trade, guys. But here's the thing, guys. This isn't just about economics. It's about strategy. According to Middle East Briefing, Riyadh's hedging its bets against the US dollar, especially with all the sanctions flying around, particularly against Russia.
The Saudis will settle their bills in yuan, and the Chinese will use the riyal. It's a win-win for them. So who is the loser? The US dollar.
They're not alone either. Countries around the world are starting to wise up, realizing that relying too heavily on the US dollar could leave them vulnerable to trade and sanctions shakedowns. And the trend doesn't stop there. Saudi oil giant Aramco's getting in on the action too. They've announced not one, but two massive investment plans in China. The first one, building a mammoth refining and chemicals plant in Liaoning province. And the second, snatching up 10% of the shares of Rongsheng Petrochemical Company. Talk about playing the long game. But wait, there's more. Over in Dubai, they're rolling out the red carpet for the Chinese yuan in their global financial center. And that's not all. Brazil and China have kissed the dollar goodbye, opting to use their own currencies in their commercial dealings. Plus, Brazil and Argentina.
Last month, Argentina announced that they would start paying for imports using the Chinese yuan due to their shortage of dollars. And Brazil followed suit, announcing that it will allow companies to trade in yuan as well.
And now, guys, it's time to tie all these threads together and draw some conclusions. Let's rewind the clock to 1974, shall we? That's when Washington and Riyadh struck a deal that would change the course of history. The petrodollar was born, a system where US dollars were used to purchase crude oil. But it wasn't just about oil. It was a masterstroke of strategy. The deal not only ensured the military defense of Saudi Arabia, but also funneled a steady stream of petrodollars back into the U.S. through treasury bonds and debt. Talk about turning the tables. But fast forward to today, and the landscape looks a whole lot different. China's on the move, guys, and they're not pulling any punches. With each step they take to challenge the status quo, the petrodollar's grip on the global economy starts to loosen. The spotlight's now shining on the rise of the petro-yuan versus the decline of the petrodollar.
Last year, Xi Jinping visited Riyadh. Several agreements were signed. They were valued at about $50 billion, $50 billion. And more deals were announced this year when Riyadh hosted a major event, an Arab-China business summit. 30 agreements were signed here.
Asia Financial sums it up perfectly, calling China's deal with Total Energies a step forward in China's long-term battle to reduce the power and reach of US dollar hegemony. And they're not stopping there. Nope. They've got their sights set on bigger fish. But hold your horses, because the road ahead isn't all smooth sailing. Sure, Saudi Arabia might be flirting with the idea of accepting yuan for oil exports to China, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Most West Asian currencies are still hitched to the US dollar, and switching gears comes with its own set of risks. And let's not forget the elephant in the room, China's capital controls and the yuan's lack of convertibility. These hurdles might slow down the yuan's ascent to global dominance, but mark my words, guys, China's playing the long game. So, what's the verdict? Well, in the short term, the dollar's still king in the oil and gas industry. But don't count China out just yet. Keep your eyes peeled, because the winds of change are definitely blowing, and the rise of the yuan in international trade is a force to be reckoned with. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more updates, and let us know what you think of all this in the comment below. And to watch the latest geopolitical news, watch this video here.